Hey guys, welcome back. Well, today seems like the common trend or the topic right now is how to keep your boiler running during warmer temps. Because obviously, as everybody knows, this winter it's been pretty warm for the most part. I mean, like today it's supposed to be 50s again. It's been 40s, 50s the last 4 or 5 days, and I've seen online and some comments that, you know, guys are struggling to keep their boiler running because there's like no load on it. It sits idle all day, which is true. You can hear mine running right now. It's just a timer cycle. So, well, there's a couple of things you can do for that. Obviously, one, you need a really good coal bed. Yes, it may be hard to keep a coal bed because it's just not running. So obviously, if you have hardwood, because that always makes really good coals. But for me, what I do, smaller splits. I know some guys are going to be like, well, all I have are big, or even if you have a conventional, if you just throw a log in there, like a big log, right? You know, I always feel like you don't get as good at coals. You might get some, but obviously when your machine's not running, for you to keep that log, that big log burning, it needs to be working occasionally, right? So if you have a now, I don't know it all about conventionals, but obviously you throw it in there, it doesn't really matter, it's gonna burn. It could be wet, it could be dry, but obviously the drier the log for a conventional boiler, it's gonna be good for it, because if it's just sitting idle for so long, like for me, I'm still heating, you know, both my shops, my house, the hot water, so I'm still 6,500 right now. But it's been 50 degrees. I can tell my garages, both of them, haven't ran in 3 days. So it hasn't been putting any load. It may run during the middle of the night, maybe one time, and that's it. The house barely runs. So I haven't been going through much wood like at all. So, but right now, the last few days I've thrown in the driest wood I have, which this is like 8%. This is all cherry right here. This is all cherry. It's all 8%. I have been throwing in from time to time like full logs. Now I have a gasification boiler, so, but as if you've been following along, you know, these have been through my kiln. They're not the driest, but they're pretty dry. I'd say they're on average probably 20% from the inside to the outside. So, so I've been kind of intermixing those. Now I know a lot of guys, they have the real big pieces. You can do that if they're drier, but I feel like if you want to keep it going, smaller splits the better. You can still load them the way you normally load them, but I always say less is more, right? So meaning the less wood I have in there, the longer the burn cycle has to be, the drier the wood that's going to get in there. It's going to work longer, I should say, but in reality you're going to keep a better coal. But that's how I do it in my gasification. So I've been putting probably a quarter of the load that I normally would, say like on a 20 degree day. So instead of putting, you know, filling it for say this is the bottom of the box, instead of filling it maybe this high, I've been going to here. And honestly, that's been working pretty good. Every 12 hours or so, I come out and I look at it to add it for the night or for the next morning. I still got wood in there, and I got plenty of coals. And this unit is so efficient in how I have everything set up, it barely works. Versus it being 10, 20 degrees. She's running a lot more, obviously, because shops are calling for heat, the door's open, you know, it turns on and so on. So smaller splits in the driest wood that you possibly have, because I mean this is dry. I mean there's barely any moisture to this. This hasn't gone through my kiln. That's just dried all on its own. That's how I do it. So I'm going to show you how much wood I put in. This is, I think it's about 9 in the morning for a 12-hour load, in my gasser is still heating roughly 65. Today there's no sun. It's cold. It's damp. Feels way colder than 45 degrees out, but nothing's really calling for heat. So I'm going to show you how much I put in. And I haven't touched it yet. I have no idea what's in there. You should have opened it when it was running. So you can see, hopefully, there's some wood in there, like that's a log right there. Otherwise it's all coals. And she hasn't gone through a burn cycle for sure over an hour and a half, according to my chart. So I'm going to stir this up, show it to you guys after I scrape the sides. And I'm probably not going to throw much in there, because if I just stirred this up, move that log over there, this will probably honestly get me to 6 o'clock tonight. So let me set you guys back up here if I can. Yeah, you can see. All right, that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to throw a couple in there. That's all I'm going to put in. So this will get me probably till 10 o'clock tonight easily. So really not much at all. So what I do is I take the coals that are all built up around the back, I kind of bring them around the nozzle, because otherwise in the back it'll burn, but it's just not as efficient. So I bring them to the front, or middle-ish I should say, and that's it. I mean, that's all I have to do. So for my current setup, that's it. I mean, it's just not cold. Now, if it was, you know, like I said, a lot colder, I'm putting way more than that in there, but it barely runs. So drier wood, the better. And you saw how much coals were in there. It's because the wood is extremely dry. I mean, the moral of the story, I guess, smaller splits, the driest wood that you have. Now, I burn this unit all summer long, just heating the hot water, and I can keep it going. And during the summer, when there's virtually no load on it all day, I have no problem keeping a fire going at all. Fortunately, sometimes I run the kiln and I have a good load on it, but it's when it's in the 80s and 90s sometimes in the summer, it's never gone out on me. I'll throw in less than what I just put in there for the whole day, and I still have no problem keeping a coal bed. Now, I'm not sure on the older conventional models if they have like timer cycles on it. That I don't know. As far as I know, they just turn on and off for the heat cycle to bring it up to whatever temp that you do. On these new guys, you can set. So mine current setup, actually we can go look at it. So you have it where, let's see if I can find it. Well, I have it go up to 185, 10-degree differential. Yep, so after the main burn cycle, right? You probably can't see it. My delay is 1 hour. It's on for 5 minutes. And then after that, every 30 minutes, it'll turn on for 5 after that. That is just to keep the fire going in the box. Technically, it's not going, it's just the coals. Because once it shuts down, it snuffs the fire and it just fills up with smoke. And then, obviously, when the timer cycle comes on, it kind of reignites. So I feel like you can play with those settings depending on your moisture content, the wood, to try to keep your coals going, right? Because obviously if the coals go out and it's just running and it doesn't ignite, well, you have no fire, no heat. So I've had those settings since day one. I've had zero issues with it. Now, if I threw in big chunks that were, say, mid 20%, maybe 30, would it stay going? Probably, maybe, probably not though, depending on the coal bed and the conditions. If it was this conditions, it may run, but I feel like the creosote built up. It probably wouldn't gas as well. It probably wouldn't gas at all. It would still heat, but you're just going to be going through wood, and it's just not, it's not going to be as efficient. So now if you don't have as dry as wood as that, most people don't, just take what you have and re-split it down smaller if you can. That's what I would recommend. Now if you just have softwoods, you can still do that. It's a little harder to maintain and get a coal bed, but you can do it. Just split them smaller. I mean, I'm sound like a broken record, but that's kind of what you have to do. That's kind of my input on that, how I've learned to keep this thing going is smaller splits. Yeah, it may take a little bit more time depending on how you split them or if you buy the wood or whatever. But so if it's a bigger piece and it's really dry, you should be fine. But like I said, less is more. So throw in less so the burn cycle burns longer, so the whatever moisture is in there will burn out. So for next time, you should still have really good coals and it should just reignite. So that's kind of the goal. Smaller splits that are dry. That's really all it is. And less in the box will keep you going. Because it has to burn a little longer. You're still going to lose, wood, but you're going to have a better coal bed. It should reignite when you need it to. So that's kind of my input. So I'm curious to see what some of you guys have done if you've had a little issue since it's been warm this winter. I mean, it's been pretty warm. I know a lot of you guys don't start your boilers probably till the average temp's in the 40s, probably closer to 30s because, wood's an asset. So you start running low on wood, you kind of get a little nervous, right? So, because obviously, as we know, depending on where you live, the burn season's, 6 months roughly, the actual hardcore. I mean, this winter's been warm. It's going to be almost the first of the year here, and it's in the 50s, 40s. Later this week, it's supposed to get back down in the low 30s, high 20s sometimes. So kind of excited for that because it's been warm, but it's been wet. It's been extremely wet. The ground's soft, hasn't froze. Obviously, there's like no snow anywhere. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm curious to see what you guys' thoughts are if you've been kind of struggling to keep your boiler going. For those of you that have a outdoor boiler. So that's kind of my input on that. I know some people say the gasification models are tricky or learning curve. They may be a little bit, but at the end of the day, you still throw in wood, you shut the door and you walk away. So yeah, it's less finicky to have a traditional boiler. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I wish I had one where I could just, all I can burn is just this. Just throw this in and be good. I've done that. It'll do it. Is it as efficient? Probably not. Versus, having nice split wood. I just like how this looks stacked. It's nice. Yeah, it takes a little bit more time to do, but you can burn this stuff in there. It's just, I don't feel like you can just burn only that. So I could be wrong. Some guys may do that. I don't do that. Throwing in smaller splits, it's just easier maintenance. It just works out that way. So, but yeah, so like I said, let me know what you guys do if you've struggled, if this is helpful information, which I think it should be. I don't think a lot of people think about throwing in less than what they normally do because they're concerned. But I feel like the more you throw in, the higher the coal bed gets. And sometimes that's not always a good thing because you don't want it to get too high where it's close to the bottom of the air channels on the side. And then it's gonna bridge that. Your creosote's not gonna come out, then it's gonna build up and so on. I know it sounds like, oh, that's finicky, but it's really not. So what I do is when the coal bed starts to rise, I'll stir it all up, shut it, I'll just close the door and I'll let it go through at least another couple burn cycles to burn those down a little bit, and then I can add more wood. So I can do that because I'm around a lot. And even when we go on tree jobs, I'm only gone for so many hours that we're back, and then I can do the boiler or have somebody else do it. It's not that hard. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys got some good info on that, and it's helpful for you guys. And even with you guys that have a traditional boiler, something like I said, throw in smaller pieces than you normally do, so you get more of a coal bed versus just that log burning. You're only gonna have coals right there. So, but yeah, hopefully that's a little help for you guys, and hopefully you guys had a good Christmas. And as always, keep burning.